What's really good, my people? Welcome into No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Little. Big Nick the Quick with me as always. What's goody?
What's the business? How we feeling?
Man, we're feeling good. You already know I'm in Florida catching some rays. We got a lot of NBA to talk about. NBA play-in starts tonight. We have Frank Vogel got fired. Russ, my guy Russ Westbrook has some comments on that.
I'm literally just now seeing this as you're saying that. I didn't even.
Yeah.
This guy Russ.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that whole situation. I don't know if we're so much gonna talk about the Lakers, more as to like how they handled the Frank Vogel situation, and now these Russell Westbrook comments. I think they're very interesting. We'll talk the postseason awards. Regular season's over, so the MVP race, all that stuff should be locked up, right? That should be done. DPOY should be finished. Rookie of the year should be in the books. We'll talk about that stuff. Stay locked with us. A lot of NBA talk, man, because yeah, this week was the MLB, opening day, but come on, man. You know what you guys come to us for. We're talking NBA. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. Stay locked.
Now look at Mossy. Really? Oh, so that's how you're going to play it. You going to do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that. And it became personal with me.
Big Nick the Quick, what's good?
Man, how are we feeling today, man? We good?
Man, we feeling great. Yeah,
on a sunny Florida, man. Sean's coming live from the rec room. If y'all can't tell, you know what I mean? It's a little aerobics class going on behind him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gotta keep it quiet today.
Yeah, I'm at my girl's grandmother's condo building, and yeah, I'm by far the youngest cat rolling around for sure. I think, if it's not somebody's granddaughter or grandson out here, then it's just a bunch of old people. So, but yeah, man.
Shout out
Florida. It's sunny. It's nice. It's
Absolutely.
Went to True Lux last night. Had a little. Bro, take a guess.
What's True Lux? I don't even know what that is.
True Lux is like it's like a seafood restaurant.
Okay.
It's like a chain. It's like a Mastro's, but it's for seafood.
Are they related to the Lux Cafe that used to be downtown, or no? Is that different?
No, that's Lux Bar. That's still there.
Yeah.
Lux Bar.
Shout out Lux Bar.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: how much you think one king crab leg is?
Dog, so funny you mentioned this, man.
Big boy.
Listen, so real quick, I'll guess in a second, but I love crab, right? Like I love crab legs, whatever. A couple years ago during the pandemic, when restaurants were shut down and shit, they were letting crab legs go at Costco. $200 for 10 pounds. I went over there a week ago. That same 10 pounds is $380. So if I had to guess, one king crab leg, and I'm assuming this is a nice establishment, like this is the real.
This
king
is
crab.
a nice establishment, and this is like the big king crab. You know what I'm saying? This is the big joint.
$85.
$128.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro.
How much you think a jumbo crab claw was? Like the cold
stone crab claw.
Yeah, cold stone crab claw. G one jumbo.
$80.
Quote unquote jumbo.
$80.
No, not that bad. That wasn't that. It was 40. It was 40 though.
That's
but
crazy.
I mean, bro, the jump, the crab.
It wasn't very jumbo.
Like, come on, what are we talking about?
One leg for $120 is wild. Was it good?
I didn't get that shit.
You was talking like you got it.
I didn't get that shit.
Said, not a chance.
Yeah,
I'm not going.
Well, listen, because the reason I'm down here is because of my girl's spring break. She's a first grade teacher.
Yeah.
So, we down here on some chilling stuff, and we went to dinner Monday night, just chilling. I thought about it, but you already know the deal. Like, I'm still gonna be very hungry after. I'm gonna bang it pretty quickly. And it's not, I've seen that movie. So,
yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
I was like, I'm not doing that, right? I will say this. I asked the dude on some I tried to sound not as broke as possible when I'm like, so why is this shit so expensive?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I know the feeling too, because I'm not trying to come off as broke. I'm actually asking what's going on over here?
Yeah. And he was basically like, they're impossible to they're really hard to find.
Yeah.
Like, there's just not a lot of them.
Yep.
And as the numbers go down, the price goes up. It's a simple concept.
Yeah. Like, you've been here long enough to know. Yeah.
Yeah. And their whole thing too is fresh crab leg. Like they go and get the shit every day. So it's fresh. They scooped it this morning. Yeah. You're eating it at night type of thing. And they're just hard come across, apparently. So
I feel like our new thing is we open up every show talking about how expensive life is getting nowadays. Shit is getting out of control out here.
It is. It really
I
is.
feel that we're not even trying to be like that, but it's almost like I said last week, man. You can't leave the crib without doing calculations in your head of how much it's going to cost to step outside the house today.
Yeah, it's very real, 100%. So
yeah, that's funny you said that. I told someone that your Wagyu story the other day.
Oh man, classic.
Classic
story.
He was getting like $150 steak, joining up being like $600.
Classic story. I'll tell y'all all our loyal No Ketchup listeners. I'll tell y'all that one day. But that's a classic story.
That's great. Yep.
But let's get into it, man. NBA play-ins tonight. Cavs Nets 7 p.m. TNT. Currently Brooklyn's -8.5. That's the line.
Wild.
You know what? Take a guess at what the Nets were preseason to make the playoffs. Just like obviously it's a big number,
just to make the playoffs.
To make the playoffs,
-900,
-20,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Nets were -20,000 to make the playoffs, and now they find themselves in a situation where they have to win to get in.
You think there was somebody that was sweating that somewhere? I just thought it was just easy refund.
Yeah, someone put up 20 bands real quick for a band.
That's why you don't ever bet -20,000 because it'll never be worth whatever heartache you go through if that shit doesn't break your way.
Especially with injuries, like that's the big thing. It's like even like a player prop. That's the thing about player props. You bet a guy on a prop and he goes out sprains his ankle in the first quarter. You burned up.
There's someone who put money on the Lakers to make the playoffs, thinking that was easy cash at whatever it was, and it's the same thing. So
parlayed it with something like
put in a whole bunch of parlays, whole shit blown up.
Yeah. This guy in the comments said, "Did you know the NBA is scripted, man? If you don't get out of here with this nonsense, bro, come on. Who is this guy?
The NFL is scripted. What else? He said the NFL and the NBA. What's next?
Yeah. So
did you know the Masters are scripted? Oh, looking up.
Right. But because I love the play-in. I love the design of it. I think it's very well thought out. I think it should never go away.
Yeah.
But in that same breath, I'm not gonna lie to you, Nick. These last week of NBA, I probably did. This is probably the least amount of NBA I've watched obviously since the tip.
Yeah, I wrapped it up last week too.
Yeah, there were so many just games that didn't mean anything. So much nonsense. Do we shorten the season? Do we shorten it by 10 games? Or is this just how it broke this year? And with the play-in, it was locked in, and that's how it shook.
Yeah, because just because we weren't watching doesn't mean that those last games were important, right? Obviously, you had the Boston and Philly and Milwaukee thing go down to the last day as far as how that seeding was going to go.
Yeah, but okay, let me cut you off there, though, because Milwaukee's sitting. It's not that important. Milwaukee's sitting everybody.
Sure.
I guess people were trying to fade the Nets. I guess I get that, but people are sitting. People are checking in, playing the tip to get bonuses. It was a bunch of nonsense games.
Yeah, and I didn't like Billy playing IO 44 minutes the other night, knowing that you've been talking about it all year. It's like our fourth most important player.
Yeah, easily.
But yeah, I wouldn't be against them going to 72 games. I think also with the shit with load management and all that, it's just like nobody's going to play.
They're going to play 72 anyway.
Yeah, no superstar is going to play 82 games anymore. All the science goes against playing 82 games. All the science goes against playing guys on back-to-back that are at a certain age or dealing with certain injuries and things like that. So on one hand, this year was kind of unlike any other year where you have this many teams that close at the end. Usually it's settled in those last few games. But at the same time, I watch a ton of NBA, you watch a ton of ball, and I was at the same point. I really did not have too much interest in watching any basketball over the last 7 days. At all. I was watching other shit, getting outside, it wasn't a basketball week, but I'm not banging down the door for them to reduce the season, but if they do it, it's cool with me.
Yeah, I think it may be a slippery slope. The sign says don't play 82, play 65, and then you drop it to 72, and then people playing 52.
Well, and then also look, you drop 10 games. You drop 10 games. That's less revenue. So we already know what the deal is with that. Everybody likes the idea of playing less until you say, well, hey, look, 10 games is more than 10% of the season. That's 13% of the season right there, right? So we're going to go ahead and we need that. We need that back. There's not as much revenue. The pie is not as big. So I think it's cool. I'm not tripping on it, man. When it comes to reducing games, who needs to reduce games is baseball still playing 162 games, or what is it, 162 games?
162,
That
yeah.
to me is absurd.
Yeah.
But you know, it is
That's
what it is.
revenue too, though.
That's all revenue, yeah, for sure. Like, they're all fucked up.
That's revenue too. All right. Well, let's talk about the game for a second. Brooklyn playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in Brooklyn, I believe. No, it's in Brooklyn. Yeah, it's in Brooklyn. And they just beat these boys the other night on Friday.
Yeah.
Cleveland started hot. Cleveland and the Bulls had like a similar looking season. Yep. Very strong starts, couple injuries broke down, and then it started not to go their way as the end of the season comes in, and then they come in limping, similar to how the Bulls come in limping into the playoffs. The line being 8.5 is kind of telling you what's going to happen here. Anything you want to see from Durant, Kyrie, or is it just like, hey, we're in the play-in, let's just get this W, get it out the way, and then let's get to the playoffs and figure out who would they be matched up with? Be the two, so they'd be matched up with Boston.
Boston,
yeah. So anything you want to see from those guys? We could talk about. I don't want to disrespect Cleveland, but we could talk about that Brooklyn-Boston series as well.
So I mean, I expect Brooklyn to just go in there or stay at home, take care of business. That's it. Like, right? They should beat this team handily. This is a team with no playoff experience when you're talking about the Cavs outside of Kevin Love. Really good story. Shout out JB Bickerstaff. Did a great job with that team. They were a little bit up and down, but let's be honest, they overachieved for the season. I think their win total coming in was like 29 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they beat that pretty early. So obviously struggled in the second half. Good young team. Awesome trajectory going forward. That's a if you're a fan of the Cleveland Cavaliers, you should be really happy with what you guys got there. But
yeah, they got some pieces.
They got Mobley, Garland, when the young bull comes back. Young bull, Karis LeVert. Yeah, it's a good team. I really like that squad, but I don't think that they have enough to beat Brooklyn if Brooklyn's firing on all cylinders, which I fully expect for the playoffs. The problem with Brooklyn going forward with Boston is they don't play any D. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while now. They don't play any D. Boston does, and Boston can score, and Boston has some boys that can give you 50, but are also going to handle their business on the other side of the floor. So I know we got KD. I know we got Kyrie. I know allegedly now Ben Simmons may be ramping up for the playoffs, which is incredible to me that you can just walk in and play playoff basketball when playoff basketball hasn't necessarily been your strong suit throughout the course of your career. So it's kind of crazy to me that a guy who's, again,
how real is that though?
I don't know, because if you think about what is his job on the floor, to play D, right? To guard the other team's best player, which it's hard to walk in the playoffs and do that, and to set the table on offense, which it's hard to walk in the playoffs and do that with guys you've never played with before. There is no one on this roster that he has played basketball with before outside of Seth Curry. So
I think the biggest thing there is where the ball needs to be in whose hands and how much time. That would be the biggest adjustment. Well, if you came in there and took the ball out of Kyrie's hands for an absorbent amount of time that he didn't appreciate, it'd be an issue. But he would have no idea of knowing that. He'd have to figure it out on the fly in the playoffs. And that's just not something you want to be doing.
And that is something he didn't have to deal with in Philly. He did not have a Kyrie-type player playing next to him in Philly. The show did go through him, right? Yeah. Like, you could throw in who's the white boy that had McConnell for a little bit, or some of these guys that could take over some ball handling responsibilities. But Kyrie is a ball handler.
You
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He's a ball handler. You know what I'm saying? You have to. I know they made it work with James, but again, they kind of had to work that in. It's hard when you're trying to work something in and do or die games. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have these aren't regular season games where you can smoke a game, but you learn something as far as how you play together. Like, you have to win these games while trying to work them in, and you're working him in to do two things that are the hardest things to do in the NBA: run the show on offense and guard the other team's best player. So it's like, hey man, you haven't played basketball literally in a year. Go guard Jason Tatum, who has been on fire the last 3 months. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this: Is there any way where they could say, "Hey, don't touch the ball on O. You're not getting the ball on O at all. Just go out there, play D, run the floor."
Yeah, I guess, but then you're
playing 4 on 5 on O.
Yeah, you're playing 4 on 5 on offense, and that's what he does. So
would you be playing 4 on 5 on O anyway?
You'd be playing 4 on 5 on offense with him anyways. But taking him out as a ball handler, it's like, yeah, at that point, well, what are we doing? So we'll see what happens, man. Maybe after a few games he can ramp up, he'll be good to go. But I just think that's a lot to come in and play a team like the Boston Celtics has been the hottest team in the NBA since the break. Like absolutely on fire. And finally have an identity and know what they want to do. So I think that's a tough series for Brooklyn. I don't see how Brooklyn gets past Boston. I think it's a quick exit for Brooklyn.
Yeah, I lean your way as well. I still haven't figured out how a lot of the books and shops have the Nets still the second favorite to win the East after Milwaukee. And Milwaukee just took the throne like the last 6 weeks. They had still been the leaders at like plus 220, plus 230 to win the East. They had been like that since like last 6 weeks ago. And I can pull it up right now. But yeah, I don't understand it. They don't play.
So does that mean the money that's been coming in on Brooklyn all year has just been steady?
Yeah, or preseason, or they don't want to put out a number that they feel.
Yeah, or is that them being not scared, but for lack of a better term, scared to put out a number that
people are just super expose them. Yeah. I mean, look, the Bucks are 250 to win the East, the Nets are 350, the Heat are 425, the Celtics are 425.
Yeah,
so what they're telling you is this is what will be interesting. So say the Nets win tonight, right? Winning in, they're playing Boston. If you're telling me right now the Nets are plus 350 to win the East and the Celtics are plus 425, that means when they play heads up that the Nets are favored. Isn't that what you're telling me?
Yeah, for that series.
Now, if that's the case, I got to put money on the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, what? Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Without a doubt.
So that's where it gets a little interesting.
Substantial investment on the Boston Celtics.
Because you're telling me that Boston has a less chance of winning the East. It's a little, this is where it gets like how much money, where's the market before the season at? How much money is on them? Because it would be interesting to see what this number on the Celtics is going to be like for that actual series. Because I got Boston all day, every day, particularly that they're just extremely locked right now. They've been playing insane hoops, and they got a guy in Marcus Smart who can bother the shit out of one of those other guys. Yeah. So put him on Kyrie, switch him on to KD. Marcus is going to try to bother the out of those guys, and it might be successful. And then you got to deal with the rest of. They're playing really good hoops right now. Yeah, I saw a stat where they had over I think this season they had like 4 games with 40 plus point wins, and then like 8 games with 25 point wins, something around that, where they had the most blowouts in the year by far. So yeah, man, that's going to be an interesting tilt. Are we disrespecting the Cavs right now?
No, I don't think so. I think we're giving them their proper due. I mean, I think
like
they just don't have enough. They don't have enough, man. Like I don't think they have enough offensive firepower to go up against Brooklyn like that. Like I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about the Nets against the Cavs. I think that's a matchup that works out in their favor. But I think they have a lot of problems. A lot of problems once you start talking about Boston squads like that. To be fair.
Okay.
Game 2. Celtics 17-5 since the break.
Yes, I mean, and they've been no fugazi in those 17 dubs either. They've been playing
22 games since the break. So the break is at 60 games.
The break is like 3/4 break. It's not even like the halfway break. Sure. But let's talk about the second game. The second game is a little more interesting than the first. It seems that way. It seems like the Nets should take care of business. And then we got Clippers Timberwolves.
Fun.
Fun is I was just gonna say that's the exact word that it should be used when you talk about this matchup. Just fun. A lot of points, a lot of individual performance.
Yeah,
it's gonna be going on.
Reggie Jackson is available tonight. This is his type of matchup.
A lot of ISO play is gonna be going on right now. Timberwolves are -3.
Wow.
Timberwolves are one of your favorite squads in the league.
Yeah, they're very entertaining, fun to watch. You talk about a young team that's exciting. They don't, and again, don't tell me these advanced statistics about the Timberwolves and their defense. My advanced statistics are right here in my eyes, and I watch those boys play a lot of basketball, and they don't defend anybody and don't have interest in defending anybody. Their whole game is create as many possessions as possible, get up and down the floor, try to score. And when you look at their roster, look, they have 3 guys who are absolutely capable of giving you 30 on any night, right? Between Karl-Anthony Towns, for sure, 30, wake up, he can do whenever he wants. D'Lo can give you 30, and let's not forget, D'Lo has been in the playoffs before. This isn't his first playoff rodeo. He made it with the Nets a few years back. And then Anthony Edwards, my boy, the Ant-Man, can definitely give you 25, 30. So when you have 3 guys that are capable, and they can give you 30 in the same game. That's the other thing with the way that they play. So when you have 3 guys who can get you to 75, 80 points just right there, look, man, that's hard to deal with. I think the Clippers, though, Ty Lue is a great coach. I think he's going to come out with a game plan that's going to be hard for them to play against. Obviously, the Clippers are a much more veteran-laden team, a lot more playoff experience. PG's back. You got some guys over there who are looking to make a splash. But I think this is going to be a fun game, man. The Clippers are also hit or miss. You can watch them on the right night, and they look like one of the best teams in the NBA when they're rolling. And other nights they're not. So, I mean, I think 42-40 is like a perfect record for the Clippers because they're kind of like again, some nights they got it, some nights they don't. But I think that's a dangerous team.
But this is a perfect nod to the play-in. We're fired up talking about Clippers, Timberwolves.
Can't wait.
A game that you could probably pass on if you're not a big hoops fan like us. We're watching just because it's a great, fun matchup. But, yeah, if this is a game that's going to get eyeballs back-to-back on TNT, coming off of Durant and those guys that are going to get eyeballs purely off the fact that it's a play-in piece.
Yep. Now,
let me ask you this. Winner of this game is going to get who we think is the Cavs. Can the Cavs beat any one of these guys? That's where it gets. See, this is where it gets kind of tough, right? Because Cavs get in if they beat the winner of this game.
Here's the thing I'll say about the Cavs. And I think Jared Allen is still out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That if they had Jared Allen, you're talking about it. So we talk about how they struggled in the second half, and that kind of coincides with that Allen injury.
Completely different.
Because they're playing 3 guys that are over 6'10", which no one in the league is doing. Allen's a defensive monster, blocks everything. And I think that's where they start to give you matchup problems. But when you talk about them losing Allen, already being down the young bull, Karis LeVert is healthy one day, not healthy the next. They just kind of got some issues there. But you thinking that they can, against Boston? Would they be able to give Boston problems?
No, I'm saying about to get in the playoffs. So this is how it works, right? 7-8. So
they would get that
win and get in.
Yeah.
Win and get in, and then they have to play the winner of this game. Winner gets in. So then they would for the 8 seed. For the 8 seed.
Hawks Hornets, right?
This is the West.
The Cavs are in the East.
Yeah, I'm tripping. I'm tripping.
That's what I was like, what are you talking about?
No, I'm tripping. Yeah. Well, I just tweaked. I just slotted them in the same play-in there. Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I was just tripping. Yeah, I just completely tweaked. My bad. But yeah, let's get back to the Clippers.
I think they go to 7 and they play the 2.
Yep.
Which would be
winner of 7 and 8 plays the 2.
Boston, which I don't think they have a chance at all.
Yeah, but they're going to play the Nets. They would get the 8. They would get the Heat, the Hawks or Charlotte.
Yeah. So and then the winner of the Clippers Timberwolves would get who's second in the West.
Second in the West is
Memphis.
Yep.
Yeah. So do I think that Minnesota could beat Memphis, or the Clippers could beat Memphis in a 7-game series? Absolutely not.
Yeah. So
absolutely not. I think that's
this is their championship right here
for sure.
The winner of this game, because Memphis is exactly.
And it'll be fun though. Again, Minnesota has a roster that could beat you on any given night because they have so much talent, right? If 2 of those 3 guys are firing, you're going to be in for a long night because they're just dynamic offensive players.
Let me ask you this: what do you do with a guy like Reggie Jackson? Because I thought coming off that playoff run he was going to get a solid deal going into this year. He did not. He signed I believe he signed a 1 year for $9 million.
Yeah.
Then he comes out. He puts up 17 a night.
Yep. Carries that team through the season.
Carries that team through the season. High volume guy. He shot around 40% on the year, which is not the best. But I'm always fascinated to see. They always tell me that don't sign guys like Reggie, but then they're always looking for Reggie to
always
help
need
out.
Reggie.
You always need Reggie, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's one of those things where I always find it fascinating where it's like, yeah, you don't want to bury a bunch of money in guys like Reggie Jackson, which you might, maybe you don't, maybe you would, depending on the situation. But that contract spot, like, what does he get? Like a 2-year, $40 million?
I don't even
does
know.
he? You know what I'm saying?
I don't see Reggie getting a ton of money, only because I feel like he's kind of one of those guys where like the book's already been written on you. Reggie's been in the league for 11 years. He's gotten big money deals. You've seen what he looks like kind of as a leading man in Detroit. Didn't go too well for him.
Yeah.
I think if you're Reggie, you need to start looking at like that Lou Williams type spot where I'm more interested in securing my place in the league for a couple years. Like, give me a 2 to 3 year deal. Might not be as much money, but Reggie was out the league before the Clippers picked him up last year. Literally out the league, right? So when you know what that reality looks like, you're probably more interested, like, man, let me just get a 3-year deal, maybe 3 years, 30 million, 3 years, 25 million, whatever. But it just keeps me in the league for 3 more years, as opposed to like some 1-year deal with like a team option or something where if I play like shit, I'm out. And then where do I go? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, he's still a shoot first point guard in a league where you can find, where you would assume you could find a lot of those type of guys for a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But if he keeps hooping, man, hey, all he can do is hoop and let the chips fall where they may. But if another big playoff performance, I mean, yeah, I think that changes things because he carried them through the playoffs last year. He was so big for them in the playoffs last year. And that Utah series and all that. Yeah, he was huge for them when they really needed somebody. But I think it's kind of like Schroeder last year when you were like, yo, Schroeder, don't worry, man. Schroeder's going to get a big deal at the end of the year. I'm like, nah, man, the book is written on guys like that. It's like the book is written on guys like that. Like you can't, you're not going to turn him into something that he's not. You know what I mean? Like they kind of just are who they are.
The whole Lakers saga is crazy because of that type of stuff. He easily could have been on that squad for 100 million. What was that deal?
84 million.
It was like 84 million. So
that was like a 4-year deal for half of what they owe Russ, or twice what they owe Russ just next year. So like, yeah, it would have been a way better contract.
It's just like a way, just like the way the chips fell out was crazy. But yeah, I thought that, but then Schroeder got moved in the middle of the year.
Yeah,
he's just
off of a contender.
Yeah, off of a contender.
And now, I mean, now it's Dennis Schroeder's not going to get any type of money in the offseason.
Yeah,
at all. He's been fighting for a spot in the league.
Man, I got respect for him though. He bet on himself. It didn't work out, but I don't know, man.
Listen, that's like I heard what's his face turned down. Mike is that his name? Aaron Judge turned down like $240 million. I'm like, look, dog. Hey, I guess.
I guess. But you know, hey, sometimes it.
No, 240.
It doesn't work. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. John Collins picked up an extra 40-50 mil last year.
Hey, look at my boy. Who did I just text about in the group chat? That my boy Miguel Cabrera, man. Take the money and run, baby.
Slow and steady.
Hey, take that money, dog. hey, take that money. He's still on that Detroit deal. Hey, I'll take the money. I'll take it. The rest later.
You know, the thing about the baseball piece too is that you could always take from what I guess in your eyes is a discount.
Yeah.
Like get the opt out in 2. Like give me the early okay.
Sabathia.
Y'all don't want to pay me a bunch of money. All right, fine. Just give me the opt out after 2 then at this money, and then I'm gonna clap you after the 2-year opt out is available.
Don't you remember CC signed that deal with the Yankees? It was like a 6 or 7 year deal, but they weren't sure he was gonna like New York, so he put in like a 2-year opt out. So it was like a big ass deal. He opts out after 2. Resigns with the Yankees and picks up like an extra $80 million in the deal. So like,
exactly. That's the one piece. The one piece about the baseball portion that is a little different than the hoops.
Yeah,
I guess you could do an opt out. I guess or
I'm big on
player
taking the
option,
money, man. Like
NBA,
unless you're looking at a really bad contract, because the worst contract is no contract. You know what I mean? And like if you're a guy like Reggie Jackson again, and you've been that close to being out the league. Like, yo, the perception on you could flip back to how it used to be in a matter of weeks. And now you're out the league. You're signing minimums. You're playing in fucking Sacramento. If you found a good thing in LA right? On a team in a major market where you're going to get a lot of pub, you're playing with superstars, and you're in a good spot. Sometimes, man, like the grass is not greener on the other side. And you just take what they're going to offer you, especially if it's security and good money.
Yeah, and I think you also got to know where you stand in the league. Like, there's guys that are there's big dogs that can be like, yeah, I'm going to hold out for an extra 20 million because they're getting it regardless.
Yeah.
The middle tier guys like a Reggie or a Dennis or like Nerlens Noel.
Not even middle tier. Yeah, that was crazy.
Nerlens Noel turned down a really big bag a few years back and then got hurt, and it just
now he's suing Clutch.
Yeah, he probably should. So there's that whole situation. Man, and there's guys like Boogie Cousins.
You get hurt.
You just get hurt and you just can't get back to that pinnacle where you could demand that big dollar. So yeah, it is really, really tough.
Yeah, I think, yeah, man. I think if I'm Reggie, if they offer him a 2 or 3 year deal with solid money, right? You don't need to look to break the bank, but solid money in a good spot like that where they have a role card. That's another thing of like, if you're Reggie, you also can't just go to any team because teams got to be looking for that type of player, and not every team's looking for that. So if you find a good spot, man, just land there. You're good to go. Land there, be comfortable. You'll be straight. Kawhi is going to miss a bunch of games going forward anyway, so you'll always have a spot in the rotation to get your shots up. So yeah, but I don't see him getting 2 and 40. I think that would be crazy to me.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but we'll you hey, put it like this: you go see a lot of Reggie Jackson tonight.
Dog, Reggie Jackson just got a good 8 minutes on the pod, man. Shout out Reggie. Shout out
Reggie Jackson. All right, let's move over to these awards.
Oh yeah,
season's over. Mm-hmm. Jokic ended the big time favorite to win the MVP. I think he closed around 3.25, minus 325. I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about Draymond Green's comments about his boy Jordan Poole. Some love. I don't know if you heard that.
No.
But let's talk about that first, actually. Draymond he was on the presser the other night, and he said, how on God's green earth can we be talking about John Morant for most improved player of the year? My man was a stud last year. What are we doing here? Jordan Poole is a real example of a most improved type player, a guy that came out of nowhere, quote unquote, was a massive contributor for the Warriors all year. He's been hooping. He's
huge. Second half of the season, he was on fire.
Dude, he's the whole season he was hooping.
I think he averaged 30 a game in February or some shit. It was crazy.
Yeah, he was playing top tier guard basketball for the NBA or for the Warriors. So, what are your thoughts on what Draymond said? Is it valid?
Yeah.
Or because I kind of see it as the league is they got to give Ja something this year. Their team has 56 wins. They're second in the West, but he can't get the MVP. And he's not a sixth man because he's starting, and he's not a rookie, so he can't get rookie of the year. So, but he's been playing crazy, so we got to give him some type of nod somewhere. That's where I kind of think this falls. That's why he's getting a look at most improved player.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Draymond. Only because for me, most improved player is kind of that guy who maybe in their first year they were playing first few years playing sporadic minutes, whatever it was, and for whatever reason their circumstance changed. They were given that opportunity and they took it and ran with it. So that's not to say that Ja hasn't made ridiculous improvements year over year, right? He went from star to superstar, which is a quantum leap in the NBA. Like I'm not discrediting it at all. But kind of like when we talk about the MVP conversation, I feel like the most improved player conversation, to me at least, it's defined as that guy who was not really doing much the year before, not really on your radar as an elite player, and jumped up and made a significant improvement in their game and is now being talked about in a completely different way, right? Which, again, kind of talking out both sides of my mouth because that does apply to Ja, but in a different way. We're talking about a guy who was an all-star, who took his team to the playoffs, and his trajectory, you're not surprised that we're here because his trajectory was kind of pointing that way towards the end of last year. I mean, shit, going back to Murray State, like, yo, this dude's a fucking hooper, right?
So he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. So his trajectory has kind of been pointing that way. when we get to the awards, like the guy that I chose, I didn't choose Jordan Poole, but it was along that same thought process of, man, this guy last year was, you might have known him, whatever. This year, it's like, yo, this is an important piece of what we got going, and he's putting up numbers. So I think that Poole fits perfectly into that category when you start talking about most improved, more so than a Ja, more so than, you know, some of these other guys. It was almost like, I think a couple of years ago, it was like Trey. It's like, hey, Trey averaged 22 as a rookie, then the next year averaged 30, and his team was in the playoffs. Is he most improved? It's like, not quite. But I get what we're talking about here. But I like,
you feel what I'm saying about having to give Ja a nod though.
Like the perfect example was like that year that happened with Jimmy Butler. Remember Jimmy won it, and it was like, a couple years before he was just a grinder, and then out of nowhere when he won his bag, it's like, yo, I'm giving y'all 20. I'm a number one option. You know what I mean? I'm guarding the other team's best player, like shit like that.
Yeah. I just feel like part of it's like, man, we gotta get Ja something for this year. Like we gotta give him something. He's been playing out of his mind. He took that leap to superstar, like you mentioned, and then we don't have an award to give him, so we'll give him most improved. Yep. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does. It should fit more the narrative of like a Jordan Poole, a guy that came out of nowhere. It'd be like if Io was an all-star next year. Be like, that's most improved. Like that's
for sure. That is
that
most
type of stuff.
player.
That's most improved player. That type of thing.
Or if Io's giving him a dub next year, like, yeah, it's like, okay,
he's in the running for that. That was that's what the award was made for. I don't know if it was made for a superstar that is doing his thing, and I want to say back into it, but picked it up.
Yeah, let's say like Zach averaged like 33 a game this year, right? Obviously, he made a crazy improvement over his numbers the year before, but it's not like I'd be like, oh, Zach LaVine, most improved player, man, for sure. Like, it doesn't work that way for me. So
right. And I do. Since we're talking about the awards, we do got to give our guy Ben Etter some time here on the pod. He's a listener. Shout out Ben Etter. We had a huge argument in the text thread prior to the season about Tyler Hero.
Man.
Me and Nick went to bat for Tyler Hero crazy.
Been to bat for Tyler Hero.
Been to bat for Tyler Hero. And then last year he showed up and we weren't looking that good. But we told y'all what happened.
Life happened quick for young Tyler.
we told y'all what happened to Tyler Hero.
Quick.
He's down in Miami. Yeah, now that he woke up and Pat Riley was in his face and he was like, "Man, I got to get my shit back together."
Got to get back on. And he saw his boy Duncan get paid. He's like, "Hold on."
Yeah, what's going on?
Duncan gets $70 million. I can get 100.
Yes, right. So Tyler Hero, and I say that to say Tyler Hero is the winner of the Sixth Man of the Year right now, minus 10,000. No one within
it's not even close
miles of him competing for that award. The next person on the list is Kelly Oubre Jr. for the Charlotte Hornets at plus 6,600. But that's dead, right?
What's his nickname? Tsunami Papi?
Wait, whose nickname is that?
That's what he's
calling Hero?
Yeah, that's what Kelly Oubre.
Kelly Oubre. Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, that's why. Maybe that's why I never heard of it. Okay. Oh, the Tsunami. Okay, I get it. Yeah, that's why I haven't heard that shit though. Yeah, because that's Kelly.
You think he's not allowed for nickname?
Nah, ain't no nickname given for Kelly Oubre.
Just Kelly Oubre.
Kelly Oubre Jr. Dog, you better stick with that, dog. What do you call himself?
Tsunami Papi.
And then I don't even understand it off top. So like, yeah, no, like you feel me? Like Time Lord, I get it immediately.
Time Lord is
like Time Lord, I get it right off top. If I'm struggling to figure out what you're even talking about,
must be the best nickname in the NBA is Time Lord.
Yeah, it really is.
Folks really honor it too. Like everybody calls him Time Lord.
Like a guy protecting the rim, playing D like that, and clearing the boards, and then they call you Time Lord. That's tough as hell.
Super tough.
Yeah, super tough. But let me ask you about the DPOY before we get into the MVP.
Yes, and also I got Tyler Hero Sixth Man of the Year as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's a shoe in. It's a lot.
We need to cue up that Jack Harlow.
That Jack Harlow. But yeah, man, I hope Eder, I hope you feel bad about that take now.
He was really trashing Tyler Hero.
He killed Tyler
Hero. He was trashing Hero out the bubble. We're like, what did you just see?
He's just the most overrated guy in the league.
Well, okay, he's a fucking bucket.
Yeah, bucket. Fresh off the bench.
Hey, we talk about all the time. Confidence matters. Guy plays.
He's got it.
He lives with extreme confidence.
He's got it.
yeah, for sure.
He's got confidence to spare. No question about that.
He can drop some confidence and still have a lot of confidence.
Yes, and that's what I love about him.
Yeah.
But let's get to the DPOY. Marcus Smart right now, minus 250. Bam Adebayo, plus 500. Mikal Bridges, plus 600. Rudy Gobert, plus 900. Jared Jackson Jr., JJJ, plus 900. A wing guy, or essentially a guard, hasn't won the award in a long time. It's been all big guys.
I think Kawhi was probably the last, right?
Kawhi was probably the last one to win DPOY as a guard.
He was such a good defender. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. What is this? Just one of those things where it's time to give it back to a guard? Is it a nod to Gary Payton and those guys? Marcus Smart has been locking up, but so is Bam, bro.
Yeah, and
so
go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? So is it kind of one of those things like these awards are so, like, DPOY especially is so subjective because
you have to be locked in and watching a lot of basketball.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of this. This is probably the one award where like analytics would help a lot on determining, matchups day to day. Or you would go the opposite.
I think analytics, like we just said, the Minnesota Timberwolves have a high defensive rating this year, and it's not because they're a good defensive team. It's just these analytics can sometimes be tricky on those numbers. I think defensive analytics are actually bullshit. I think defensive DPOY, you got to be watching the games, man. And like at some point, if you're voting on
situational spots too.
Yeah, it's situational spots too. It's like you watch a guy like my favorite defender in the league to watch is Tybal, right? To appreciate Matisse Tybal, you have to watch the 48 minutes of basketball that he's playing because it's the little things that he does that makes it difficult for everybody else. He's playing the passing lanes. He's able to switch on to better other defenders, things like that, right? So I think it's hard just to look at numbers and be like steals and blocks and defensive rebounds. Oh, he's a great defender. I think you really got to lock in. You got to watch what it looks like when they're up against tougher matchups. If you're looking at Bam, you got to see what it looks like when he's switched on the pick and roll, stuff like that. Yeah. So I think it's the biggest eye test metric you could possibly have to me would be defensive player of the year.
I think when I was talking about analytics, I guess I was talking about more like individual matchups and how players performed when Marcus Smart is locked up on you during the game. Those type of things is what I was talking about. But yeah, if you watch those games, you could get an idea. Like people, the best thing, the thing I love about a guy like Thybulle or Smart or whoever else is you could see in the offensive player's face that I don't want to deal with this guy, man. I
deal with this all day.
Like this guy is a nuisance, and almost like sometimes you'll get to the point where guys are giving up the rock. Like, here, man.
Yeah,
get this shit out. I catch me on coming off a pin down or something else, but like I'm catching it at the top of the key, and this dude is in my face. Like, we run a set or something else because I don't want to deal with this. That's where I think, with DPOY being as subjective as it is, that's where you see the difference in some of these guys.
And I think I also take into consideration what is your defensive value to your team, right? And I think that's like when Draymond was winning his awards, it's like, Draymond's defensive value to that Warriors team, you can't chart it. You know what I mean?
Immeasurable,
it allowed them. His defensive value allowed them unlock them on offense because you could play him in that role on defense. You were allowed to keep him out there. And because of what he was able to do on offense and the ability to switch against everybody 1 through 5, right? Like Golden State's whole lineup of death that they called it was all about playing smaller and being able to switch and having a guy like Draymond who could switch on to guards, but also guard center and everybody in between. So when you talk about like that and that unlocks so much within your scheme defensively, that's huge, right? So like the impact that makes. So that's kind of how I was also looking at it. And that's where I went with my pick. But yeah. So I'm going Bam. Bigs that can switch effectively in 2022 are the most valuable things to your defense in the NBA. Because you all know what it looks like with bigs who are not able to switch off the pick and roll or who get caught up in the pick and roll and are out there guarding smaller guys and just getting abused. And you can have a very, 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 very long night if you have a big who constantly keeps getting put in that blender. A guy like Bam, he is able to switch 1 through 5. He's athletic enough to guard 1s and 2s effectively, right? He's not locking up Steph Curry, but he's able to stay in front of him, right? Better than a lot of other bigs. And then down low, he's obviously protecting the rim, doing a lot for them there. But I think just that ability to guard positions 1 through 5, and you look at how Miami wants to play, he is huge. So when it comes to unlocking a defense, unlocking what that team tries to do, the third best defense in the NBA statistically, and a team that definitely gets their calling card is their defense, and he's their defensive leader, which is crazy on the team with Jimmy Butler. But he allows them to do so much defensively. It allows them to put out different types of lineup, allows them to play with Hero and Robinson and those different guys who might not be as good of defenders, but Bam can kind of clean up some of that for them.
And a lot of the people listening are Bulls fans, and me and Big Nick the Quick are Bulls fans. If you watch what Bam did to Vucevic, he gave him hell every single time they played.
Yeah.
Vucevic wanted no parts of Bam Adebayo at any. I mean, that's not saying much, I guess, but still, like Bam. I mean, Vooch didn't even want to step inside the 3-point line.
Yeah,
like it's just like
I don't want to deal with this guy.
I want nothing to do with this guy. So yeah, man, shout out Bam. I think Marcus gets it just because I think a lot of this stuff is a little more political than it seems. I think there's a lot of guys that are just opinion. Like
for it.
Marcus probably needs we got to give it to a perimeter guy. So let's give it to Mark. Like, I think that goes on a lot more than people even realize. And I just like kind of what I was saying about Morant. Like, wow, we got to give him something. So we could pass it. We could pass this off as an award. Like, we'll do that. Because he doesn't fit most improved player. He won Rookie of the Year, had a massive year after that, and then in third year, he took an insane leap. He's not most improved. He was already like, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Right, he doesn't fit that at all.
And I'm not mad about that at all. And shout out our boy AZ Cards, Phoenix Suns on God in the chat. I have no problem with Mikal Bridges either.
Yeah.
And Mikal Bridges to me is a most improved player type guy, right?
Important piece.
Extremely important to what they do. I knew he'd be good coming out. We talk about it all the time. Take these Villanova guys. These guys are just won championships. They're fucking pros. So yeah, shout out Mikal Bridges. But again, to me, I just have a thing for switchable bigs that don't get caught in the blender in the pick and roll, right? I've watched Wendell Carter for years not know what to do in the pick and roll. And guards just, destroy him. And plenty of other bigs, right, who just don't have the foot speed, the ability to recover. Guards see you, their eyes get big. Guards' eyes don't get big when Bam Adebayo switches onto them. They understand that they're still in for a matchup that they got to try to take advantage of.
Yep. All right, before we get into the Russ Vogel situation, let's talk MVP. Right now, it looks like Jokic is going to go back-to-back.
Oh, we're not doing Coach of the Year and Rookie of the Year?
Oh, we can.
I'll just give you mine real quick.
Yeah, give them to me.
Rookie of the Year for me is Scotty Barnes.
Forget the Evan Mobley missed too many games to close the year?
Not even that. I think Scotty Barnes' impact on the Toronto Raptors is absolutely massive. That team needed another player to get back to where they wanted to be. They drafted Scotty Barnes, and he walked into that role and filled it for him great. He's an awesome perimeter player, good defender. You can run offense through him. He can score. He can rebound. He does a ton for them, and he fits in perfectly to what they're trying to do. And that team has the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. You know how I feel about the Toronto Raptors, but I think that Barnes' impact on a really, 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 really good team
can't go understated.
Can't go understated, man. Like, you're talking about a rookie putting up, I think it's like 15, 5, and 4, and 100% filling a role that they needed, right? Like, they needed another wing, and you found one through the draft, and the kid has come in and delivered. So I'll give it to Scotty Barnes.
I would love to hear what you're going to say
15,
about
7, and 4. 15, 8, and 4. Good numbers.
No,
good defense.
And I think it, like you were saying, he made a big impact on a team that is in the playoffs and came on like a shitstorm to close the year.
Yeah, nobody wants to play.
And no one wants to play them.
Nobody wants to go there for 7 games. Philly is not looking forward to that. Would you be surprised if Toronto won that series?
No. We could talk about that after this if you want.
Yeah, okay. Zero surprise.
Because we're gonna that could be a good segue. Shout out Jason Stevens in the comments. He said, "Hell of a rookie class this year." Yeah, no question.
Yeah, awesome.
A lot of real hoopers.
Like impact hoopers. Shout out Josh Giddey.
Shout out Josh.
Saw him in person. I'm trying to tell you, one of them, Josh Giddey.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you this too. I saw Austin Reeves only twice.
Yeah.
At Oklahoma. And I was like, this guy can hoop. He's going to the Lakers, and they're probably not going to have a lot of minutes for him, which they ended up did having minutes for him.
A lot more than he thought.
A lot more than he thought. But it was like, there's a lot of this guy can hoop. Like, that's it. So, man, a hell of a class.
Man. We talk about this shit all the time. You watch the fucking game and see who can hoop out there.
Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Stop looking at all this other shit. I watch the games. Can he hoop or yes or no? Simple. Check a box. Yes or no. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Jalen Brunson. Can he hoop? Abso-fucking-lutely. Draft him and keep it moving.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. All right, that's a perfect segue into.
And then let me give you coach.
Get coach of the year. Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you're going to say here.
This is a surprise because I thought this guy was on his way to getting fired after the first 30 games of the year. But I got Ime Udoka at Boston.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking about a team that's had a lot of talent for a lot of years, but has never been able to figure out how to play together. Never been able to find establish a pecking order, a hierarchy, whatever. Right? It just seems like a bunch of guys who did not enjoy playing basketball together. You watch these Boston Celtics over the last couple months as they stormed into that second seed. That team has an identity. They're playing D and they're running through Tatum, right? And everybody else is kind of falling in line. And I think a lot of that is on Udoka. You don't hear a lot about him. I don't know if I've ever heard the guy talk. I know he's engaged to Nia Long, so shout out that. That's huge. That's huge. Long, you know what I'm saying? Super bad. But man, I just think he's just done an awesome job there. I think you could also give it to Nurse. You could give it to.
So hold on. So you got to give a nod to Brad Stevens on that.
I give a nod to Brad Stevens for stepping out of the fucking coaching, the coaching side, the sidelines, because I thought that he was skating past criticism more than I've ever seen. You don't fire the guy, you promote him. So yeah, maybe if he brought in Udoka, but Udoka's been a hot coaching candidate for years now. A lot of teams were talking about him. I think that he did what Brad wasn't able to. And I get Brad got them to the conference finals and they had some good playoff runs, but it just never felt right. This is the first time I could say watching the Celtics that it's felt right. Like we've said in years past, we've watched these guys. Yeah,
it clicked. There was a time where I was on MSG on TV talking about, I can't believe we're talking about this team making the playoffs. Like, are they going to make the playoffs?
Yeah.
This roster's insane. Everything about it's insane. And then it seemed like right after I said that, they just took off and have been hooping ever since.
Hooping, like you said, thrashing people.
Yeah, blowing people completely 40, out. Yeah,
Tatum's going for 50. And like you finally kind of figured out the Tatum Brown thing of like, yo, there is a 1 and there's a 2. The 1 is Tatum, you're the 2, but that's okay. You can still go, and they still give Brown his games where he goes for 30 or 40. So I love it. Yeah. I think that they're a tough team in the playoffs.
Absolutely. All right, let me ask you this. So let's talk about the MVP. Jokic seemed to have won the MVP the last 2 weeks.
And I didn't even give my most improved. It was Maxey. We talked all that, and I didn't give it. It was Tyrese Maxey for everything that I talked about. You're talking about a guy who they made him a point guard.
Yeah, he's sick.
He's awesome. And they literally took him out of position this year and said, you're going to play point for us in his second year, and did it well.
So special?
I gave Tyrese Maxey most improved player. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, Maxey had an awesome year and is fun.
Who do you have? Did you have you had
to be honest, I didn't even make a pick just because it looked like, I mean, Morant's going to win it. I was just more talking about how did we get here? Should we even be doing this, even talking about him being the most improved versus a guy like Maxey or Jordan Poole? So, yeah, I'm not mad at Maxey, though. Nice. Because, he's nice. He had a lot of fun. All right, let's talk about the Sixers. Let's talk about the MVP. Guys. Draft Kentucky guys too. So we'll talk about let's get into the MVP. Jokic seemed to have won the MVP the last 2 weeks. He's now minus 350 to win the MVP. He's pretty much locked in.
What a flip.
To a point where 2 weeks ago it seemed like Embiid had it locked in. He was like minus 150. And it flipped similar to how it flipped in the NFL with Brady and Rodgers.
Yeah.
Now, Nick, let me ask you this. Did James Harden coming to town cost Embiid the MVP?
No, not for me. I think if anything, it enhanced his case because James Harden has played like shit and they're still able to win games.
So Jokic his way into it? Just a guy we've never seen before?
Yeah, and it's like, dude, it gets hard when you're looking at a year like this to be like, yeah, there's one MVP because there's a strong case for both of those guys. I leaned towards Embiid because I've had Embiid all year, and at that point, he hasn't done anything to lose it. And while I think Jokic, you take Jokic off the Nuggets, you have a lottery team. I think that Embiid is so important to what they do on both sides of the floor. I think the defensive impact is kind of what allowed me to edge out Embiid or allowed Embiid to get the win because again, just defensively, he's a fucking monster. He brings it for them every single night. And all this isn't to say that Jokic doesn't do the same exact thing because he absolutely does. But Joel is so important to that team. He held them down all year while they were dealing with all that bullshit. All he did was put up numbers. All he did was lead his team on both sides of the floor. All he did was kept them in contention. And yeah, James came for the last 25 games or so and gave him a little bit of relief. But we can't sit here and act like we didn't watch the first 2/3 of the season where Joel was carrying this team without their alleged second best player, and their third best player is a myth in Tobias Harris, right? So I got Joel. I have no problem giving it to Joel. The numbers are there as well. 31 a game, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, which is huge from the center position. A couple blocks, and a steal.
He had an insane year.
Insane year. And wants to hurt you, man. Like, wants to fucking hurt you.
Yeah, the mental switch.
We talk about it. Like, we talk like AD doesn't have that dog in him. Like, Joel is a fucking dog. Like, wants to inflict pain, wants to punish you. And it says a lot that in 2022, when the game is going away from centers, that no, with a guy like Embiid, he's that good that it's like, no, we have a center that gives you 30 a game, and that's who we're going to run through, and that's what the offense is going to go through, and that's our focal point, and we're just dare you to stop him. Just stop him.
Yeah, and there was possessions a lot of times this year where he was literally getting the ball on the block 6-7 possessions in a row.
Yeah, and we can't do anything with it.
You can't do anything with it. He was either going to the line or he was scoring.
Yeah.
And that was it, and that was all.
And he shoots like 85% from the free throw too, which is crazy for a big.
Yeah. I lean your direction, to be completely honest. I love Jokic. I love what he's doing. I understand that squad out there in Denver, they got Will the Thrill. Did you know Will the Thrill is he's like number one in 3-pointers made for the Nuggets?
He's a bucket.
I can't remember if he's 1 or 2 or from what I was reading, but he's top 2 for the Nuggets in 3-point shooters all time. Will Barton.
Hooper. Will the Thrill Barton is a hooper.
So,
definition.
Yeah, so that's a fun stat, but it just shows you how Jokic just hasn't been playing with. I think people are just enthralled by Jokic and how he plays and his passing ability and everything about him and how he impacts the game. Triple doubles with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Things like that kind of pushed him over the edge. But also his efficiency rating is something like we've never seen before either.
Absolutely.
And then in the same season, what was the record he just had? The first person with, hold on, I had it written down. It was like the first person with a certain amount of assists, steals, hard rock. First player with 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists in a single season. NBA record. No one else has ever done that. Jokic did that in 2022. Yeah. So
PER of 32.9.
Yeah, like.
But you know something's crazy? Giannis's PER is 32.1.
Well, we talked about that too, right? We could give it to Giannis.
It's Giannis fatigue. It's like, you just expect it at this point in time that Giannis is so fucking good.
Yeah. But the all-around game that Jokic showed, and he carried that squad. If you took him off that squad, that team is literally the Magic almost.
Yeah, they lost his top 2 players.
Like, they're that bad. So I lean your way, but it looks like Jokic is going to go back-to-back. And I'm not mad at that. And that puts him in insane class.
Rarefied air.
Like, Jokic is, he's going to go down as one of the most unique players of all time.
Absolutely.
No question. For him, if you looked at him 5 years ago and said, this dude's going to win 2 MVPs in a row, you'd be like, get real. but he did it. It looks like he's gonna do that. And
Does that mean
the Sixers are really interesting, man.
Yeah.
We also talked this week on the one-off about the whole Harden situation. I don't know what you do with him next year.
He cooked.
Like, if he walks into your office and asks for $160, $200 million, I don't know what you say.
It's like 45 a year.
I don't know what you say to that.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting. I don't know what you say to that. It's crazy. All right, let's close the show. Frank Vogel gets.
And you're talking about a guy who doesn't necessarily. I'm not going to question his motivation, but doesn't take the offseason very seriously.
No,
and another $200 million, and another $200 million isn't necessarily going to help that. Not to mention where I think he has a player option for this upcoming year, right? So if he does pick that up, you'd be talking about a 34-year-old James Harden that you're negotiating with next season. And what about this makes you think it's going to look good from ages 34 to 38?
Well, that's what I mean. So I don't know.
What makes you think it's going to look good next year? Like, let's be completely honest. If I'm them, I'm like, yo, you should opt into your deal, and we'll kind of figure it out. But
yeah, it's a really interesting spot.
He's not LeBron. Like, he's not a, it's not Brady. He's not Ronaldo. He's not out here taking care of his body at like a epic level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Probably drinking right now.
Come on, man! You said he had mimosas with a sausage and egg.
Absolutely,
an egg biscuit.
Yeah, he's sitting up on those big ass rocky steps, having a drink, chilling. Like, this is great. So much bread. There's a strip club open right now.
All right, let's close the show. Frank Vogel, Russell Westbrook. I'm gonna share my screen, man, and I read the article. I haven't seen the video of Russ talking about this. So hold on. I haven't seen the video of Russ talking about this. So hold on. You go to this. All right. Oh, hold on. I'm fucking up. But basically it sounds like Russ and it sounds like Russ had a problem with, or he felt like he had a problem with Frank Vogel. Here's Russ Westbrook on Frank Vogel and the firing, his relationship.
How did you guys jive as player and coach? What do you think how do you think of the job he did?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate, to be honest, because I've never, and I was saying this, I never had an issue with any of my coaches before, as much as people may assume. Or I've never had an issue with any coach, any players, any staff members, anybody actually, if we're keeping it honest. And from the moment I got here, and you guys don't know this, but it was actually Frank's and his wife's anniversary. And I actually sent him a bottle of champagne and stuff to his hotel room, which he know anything about, because it's a nice thing to do, nice gesture. I'm coming to the team. Congratulations to you guys. And that's just the type of person I am. I don't do it for anything back in return, but that's just something that I felt was the right thing to do. And I'm not sure what his issue was with me, or I'm not sure why, but I can't really give you an answer why we never really connected. Maybe, that's something that he has to answer, but I never, from the get-go was feeling like I was having to try to prove myself to him and my capabilities and what I've been able to do for this game. And it's unfortunate, but it's really not kind of out of my hands.
Okay.
He didn't really say too much.
He didn't really say it. I sent Frank Vogel and his wife a bottle of champagne for their anniversary, so I thought I'd get treated better. What was the purpose of that? I thought he was going to go somewhere like Frank was like, yo, I don't drink. How dare you send me a bottle or something like that. He didn't really follow. Okay, you sent your coach a bottle of champagne. Great. Like, that makes you a good guy? Okay.
I guess what he was getting at was I reached out and tried to connect with this dude, and it seemed like all year we weren't really on the same page. And honestly, man, I don't really appreciate Russ even bringing that shit up. Like, who cares? He's fired, first of all.
He's fired, and you're going to be there next year because you have a $44 million option that you picked up in 2019. You know what I'm saying?
So
he picked this shit up before Otto picked up his shit last year.
It's also like one of those things where it's like Russ is content, right? He's just giving you the emotion raw, and you know how he feels about the situation. He feels like they didn't vibe, so he was letting people know. But yeah, I don't know, man. How do you feel like the Lakers handled that Vogel situation altogether with Woj coming out?
Russ needs to be real with himself and be like, look, I didn't play up to the level that I would have been like, look, I didn't play up. There were times I didn't play great, but there were also times where I wasn't clear on what I was supposed to be doing, right? Like you can kind of take some own. He made it seem like, yo, first off, he's like, I've never really had to prove myself. It's like, dog, your game is slipping, right? And what you do isn't as valuable as it was when you were the number one guy. Like you didn't really adjust to make this team better. You still shoot threes when you shouldn't be. For some reason, you can't hit free throws anymore. You still have a ton of defensive lapses. You still turn the ball over at an epic rate. Like, yo, be real with yourself, man. It's not Frank Vogel's fault that you didn't have a good year. Like, that's not all Vogel, number one. As far as the Lakers situation goes, if I'm Frank Vogel, I'm fucking relieved. Who in the hell wants to have this job next year? You have an old roster that has no real ways out. Like, you're really committed between like $100 million to Davis, Bron, and Russ, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, you don't really have much wiggle room. You don't have any trade assets. If you're the Lakers, I'm absolutely not trading any of my first-round picks going forward because this team's going to be shit. And if you're a coach looking at that situation, why would you want to go coach an uncompetitive LeBron team? It's a lot to coach LeBron, but the trade-off is we're going to win some shit. To coach LeBron and win 30 games, that's a fucking nightmare. Yeah. So who the hell wants that job? I think Vogel's going to be great. There are going to be some openings for Frank Vogel. Worst case scenario, he can go coach the Sacramento Kings. Best case scenario, the Knicks see that Vogel's available, they fire Tibbs, and they bring in Frank Vogel for their operation over there. Right? He's still going to coach them defense, but he's not going to wear down players like Tibbs will. And he's a New York guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to have a really, 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 really good soft landing spot. He can take a year off, be an analyst, and wait for a better job to open up. But he will be the number one coaching candidate over the next 2 cycles. So I think for him, if I'm him, I'm relieved. Yeah, get me the fuck out of here. I got my ring. I'm good. Lived in LA. Made a bunch of money. We're good. Honey, this is great, right? This is great. You're good? Cool. And I can kind of do whatever. Yeah, it's great. You're great. Yeah, fucking, this is great. I love California. But he'll get any job he wants. They had to fire him, though. I mean, I don't think you could bring – heads had to roll at the end of this Lakers season, and he was the most obvious one, number one. The second one is going to be Pelinka.
How do you let Woj find out and tweet that out 3 days before you informed Vogel, though?
Because they've always had problems over there. It's just like when Magic Johnson up and left the team. Like, it's a shit show over there. Yeah. Don't you remember the Magic thing? Like, the Magic's up and left the team. It's just a shit show over there. It's crazy. He's asking about press conference. They're like, yeah, so you know you're fired, right? And he's like, look, I'm just going to enjoy this one. He's like, did you know about it before you came up here today? He's like, yeah. It's crazy, man. So it's a disaster. That's another reason.
Isn't that Pelinka just loose lips?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what they said that what's his face? Quinn Snyder, I guess, was interested in the Lakers job. Why? I don't know. If I'm him, I'll coach the Jazz for the rest of my life. Quinn Snyder with the nice belts.
Well, no,
maybe they got better belts on Rodeo. You ever notice that Quinn Snyder always has a designer belt on?
Yeah, he does. He does. Like, he keep one on him. Yeah,
keeps a designer belt on.
Yeah, and well, he got a little situation with Donovan he knows about too.
Yeah, well, he knows Donovan. So. That's the other thing I was going to say about Vogel. If you're Vogel, keep an eye on New York because Donovan Mitchell wants to go play for the Knicks. So when Donovan Mitchell,
you're very confident on that, huh?
Yes, I think he forces his way to New York this summer. New York has the assets to get it done.
For Randall.
No, it wouldn't be Randall. It'd be Barrett, RJ. Teams are going to want RJ because he's young.
They are not moving They're not moving RJ.
Listen, for Donovan Mitchell,
they're gonna have to figure out something else. Yo, I'm telling you right now, from being in New York,
I know they love him
and working out in New York.
They love him in New York, right?
No, they're not moving off. They're not moving RJ Barrett.
Is that a real? I can hear like how much the Knicks love RJ. I like RJ too. He's a good player, but they fucking love him, huh?
They love RJ Barrett. They're not moving off RJ Barrett. I'm telling you right now.
RJ runs Manhattan.
I work for MSG Network. I'm telling you right now. I'm not saying this like I got some inside scoop. Yeah. This is just what for me looking around and talking to people and understanding what's shaking,
They believe
they are not gonna move RJ Barrett. They'd have to figure out a way to add Donovan with RJ in the building. They would have to move Randall.
Yeah, but who the hell wants a Julius Randle's contract? Nobody does.
Then here comes the leverage. Here comes the leverage, though.
If you're Utah, are you excited about paying $70 million to Gobert and Randle combined?
No, because then I get what you're saying, but you have to that's when the salesmen come in, and then that's when the leverage comes in of, Julius could use a really fresh start. He could use a different spot.
To explain this RJ thing to me again, because I like him, but I've always heard.
Have you watched him all year? He's been killer this year.
He's good. I understand. It's just you're not the first place that I've heard like the name RJ Barrett trade come up, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely not. The Knicks will never move RJ Barrett. Like
they're not moving him. I'm telling you.
Like we're talking like RJ, like he's like Ja.
Yeah, RJ has. I'll put it like this: RJ has won the hearts of the Knicks fans. That's what it is. They love him. They love Quickly. They love Obi Toppin. They love Obi Toppin. They love Obi Toppin. First
of all, he's a New York guy.
Well, and he plays the same position as Jew, so he wasn't getting a lot of minutes early, but he closed the year. He had like a 30-point game the other night. So
9 points a game in only 17 minutes. Yeah, for sure.
They're not. Every time he got on, he made an impact. So they would have to figure out.
Well, either way, if I'm Utah, I want RJ Barrett back in any Donovan Mitchell package. But the fact of the matter is, and if a guy wants to go, you talk about it all the time. You've been on this for years. If a guy wants to go somewhere, he's going to get there. And he wants to go to
especially
New York.
In the NBA.
Right. So he wants to go. He wants to go to New York. Obi's real name is Obadiah. Shout out. That's tough.
Obadiah Toppin.
Obadiah Toppin. Bitch, call me Obadiah.
You can't call me Obi yet.
You can't call me Obi. We ain't there
Obadiah.
Yet. We ain't there yet. Yeah. So I think if you're Vogel, again, you shouldn't be pressed to go get another job unless it's one that you want, because you will get any job that you want going forward.
Let's close the show with this. If you could have asked Russ anything in his end of year press conference, what would you have asked him? What happened?
How would you evaluate your performance this year? Just you.
Oh, interesting.
Honestly, and I'd like to know what he would ask. I feel like he would.
What he would say?
He would get defensive and standoffish. What do you mean my performance? You watch the games? Did you watch the games? Did you watch the games? Right? You cover the team for a living. Like, isn't that your job to write about that? I don't do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Honor the gift.
Honor the gift. Yeah. Shout out, Russ. Honor the gift. His clothing line. It's actually pretty dope. They got some good stuff.
I was looking at some shit the other day. You got the Why Not joint on right now, though. I see.
Yeah, I do got the. I didn't even read.
Yeah.
I got the shout out Russ. Why not? You already know Jordan Brand. You get it?
Russ still has that hard ass Uzi Vert commercial. That I do what I want. Shut up, Russ.
I do what I want. Yeah, man. Shout out Russ. Why not? You already know. Yep. All right, man. We'll leave it there. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Little. Big to quick with me as always. Make sure you check us out, man. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere you listen to podcasts. We are there. Share the link. Drop a review. Rock with us, man. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. We'll see y'all next week.